All right, we are back. Let me take that out. Back to affiliate hot seat, everybody. Jenny Gibb here, DeNovo CrossFit in Colorado, Fort Collins, coming on the show. But before we talk about her gym and what we want to do, if you guys have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, I don't know what's wrong with you. Please do that, or otherwise you're going to hurt my feelings. You're going to hurt Jenny's feelings. She's new to the show. Don't hurt Jenny's feelings. That would be really terrible. And then also, if you guys are interested in being on the show, we'll drop that link in here. I'm doing this solo, everybody, which basically means that we no longer need Cody because I've demonstrated that I can do this all by myself. But yeah, so if you guys want to, go ahead and fill out that form and we will get you guys scheduled. But affiliate hot seat, we're going to talk all things affiliate ownership, building your team, growing your gym, loving it while you're doing it. But Jenny, thanks for coming on the show.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
We have not met, correct?
Correct.
Have you met Jay before?
No, but I will in a couple of weeks.
For what?
He's offered to come watch me. Oh, next week, actually. Geez. Watch me guest coach at Sanitas. I have my level 4 in April. So gonna observe me.
All right.
Feedback.
All right. This brings up a whole another line of questioning as we work.
It brings up a high heart rate as well.
Well, it should. So how long have you had your level 3?
A little over 5 years.
Okay. So you've done at least one revalidation on
Yep.
that. Okay. Why? I find this to be very interesting. People have just rushed to go take the level 4. Why? How do you feel about the level 4? Why did you register to take it? Why do you think somebody should register to take it?
Well, after I got my level 3, I did naturally look up what is the next step and when can I do that? And for a long time, it was coming soon on the CrossFit website. So when I heard that it was actually coming out this last December, I watched the webinar and checked the registrations the first day it came out, and they were all sold out that evening when I showed my husband. I was just like, holy crap, these are going fast. I don't know how many people are able to sign up and all the things. And the next set came out and I asked my husband, I was like, what should I do? Knowing that he would just tell me just to sign up and say that I'm ready as I'll ever be, which I don't know if I agree with, but he believes in me and he told me to sign up. So I did. And so I don't know if it would have been available sooner. I probably would have signed up for it sooner. And I'm glad that I had that amount of time before signing up for it, just to get more practice under my belt, coaching and all the things.
How many classes a week do you currently coach?
Currently 6.
Okay. What's the highest class load that you have coached?
Oh, that was probably closer to the 20s. At one point, it was just me and my head coach, Joreen. When we started DeNovo CrossFit, it was just the 2 of us. So we split all the classes throughout the week.
So that you're pushing 80s to 100 a month at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, that was rough.
It wasn't doable. It's not sustainable, but it's doable.
Yes. I was going to say, we knew it was going to be, it was somewhat necessary at the time, and we were going to hire more coaches. That was one of my rules when I started DeNovo was I don't want to be the only coach, I don't want to do it alone, and I don't want even it just to be the 2 of us because it's just not sustainable and I'll end up resenting it. So.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about the affiliate, right? So how did you decide you wanted to open an affiliate? What were you doing before that? All the things.
Sure. So Joreen, I'll mention her probably a few times. Again, she's my head coach. She and I coached at a gym, a CrossFit box that was inside of a health club for 7-8 years before starting DeNovo. And it was, the question of the day, like, what's your dream job? And I would consistently think like, that'd be pretty cool to own a gym. And I know it would be a lot different than just coaching. There'd be a lot harder things. It's not always just fun and sunshine and rainbows. And then in January or February of 2019, the gym that we were at, they got bought out by a larger, more corporate health club. And it wasn't necessarily a bad thing, but it was just kind of shifting the culture a little bit. And it was kind of
So the
like
health club that it was in bought the gym from them and then took it over.
the health club that the box was in was purchased. So the health club ownership.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
The box kind of, for the most part, stayed the same. It was us, and we just kind of kept doing our thing. But overall, yeah, the culture just shifted a little bit. So it was kind of a natural one reason for maybe the next step. And then,
Right.
and then it was pretty fast. That was, like I said, February. And I think in April, I was writing the business plan for DeNovo and like meeting with our corporate landlord friends. And in May, we got the keys and we opened in July. So it was a pretty quick turnaround. That's like the short version. I'm very good at long stories, so I'm going to do my best to not.
That's okay. Well, it's a long form podcast, Jenny, so you can talk as much as you'd like.
Great.
So when you guys started, what did that look like? How much prep did you have? Like, did you talk to any beforehand? Like, how do you, I asked because I kind of see some people just literally jump into the deep end. And to be very candid with you, I literally don't even remember what I did in order to prep to open a gym. I'm really sure I did anything, to be honest.
So, yeah, one of the first steps was reaching out to our friends who actually they own a real estate company in town, and they have a corporate partnership with us. So their employees come and do CrossFit. So I reached out to them and asked if they did corporate real estate, and that was kind of the start. And we just started looking at places to try to figure out like, what does this even mean? And that didn't really feel real. And then, like I said, I started kind of writing like a business plan. My husband and I looked into what does this even cost as far as like outfitting the gym with equipment and everything. Mm-hmm. We met with a lawyer, because me and my husband were not married at the time. And so that was something we wanted to figure out, and because me and my husband own it, and formed the LLC, did the S Corp, again, did the business plan, met with our landlord, and he wasn't a fan of us in the beginning because we had, no experience. He was the one that was like, I'll need to see a business plan. I'm like, what the heck is that? So
the landlord. Well, I mean, I understand why he would do that. I'm not entirely sure how common that is, but I understand why he would do that because he's like, well, I want to make sure I put a tenant in here that doesn't fall apart.
Yeah, well, and through his eyes, it's like the stereotypical, like, these kids just want to own a grungy gym or whatever. Like that was kind of what he thought. And his family, his like kids had done CrossFit once and, of course got hurt, and like all the negative stigma that was just like already, the stories in his head. And so met with him a few times. He was just like, I don't know. I don't think this is the right fit. And I was like, okay, I want to meet you. Let's meet face to face. You can meet us and see what we're about. And then, it was just, I don't remember all the details, but buying all the equipment and trying, I remember.
Did you guys finance that, or did you guys come out of pocket to have your initial purchase?
So we worked with my parents and Drew's mom, and then one of our members who's interested in investing. They helped us with some loans. So that was very helpful in the beginning.
Yeah. Super random. We'll just, the economy, I don't know, it's basically imploding as we speak on this podcast, but the private lending, I think, is going to become much more common here in the next several years as all sorts of things get weird. Interest rates get really, really high. There will always be people that have money. So anybody who's in the market for that, like private money is available a lot more than you think. And it's significantly easier to do than working through a bank. you shouldn't forego all of the due diligence with regard to private lending, but the only hurdle that you'll have to get over is like making sure that you have a plan, and then will that person lend to you is
Hmm.
really what we have to do. The banking thing can get really extensive depending on the amount of money that you'd be asking for. So
We actually
and
went to a bank like a week and a half or 2 weeks ago just to talk about, we have 2.5 years, just over 2 years left of our lease, and we're like trying to plan
buy a
ahead.
building, yeah.
We would love to buy a building, and so we went to the bank, and they don't even do business like loans anymore for, I don't know, it's weird. They like stopped doing business loans. So
The bank did.
yeah.
Well, that bank did, but there's plenty of banks out there who do that. But like you should go
Mhm.
through the SBA process is a bit excruciating. However, everybody should do that just as an exercise. Like you
Mhm.
should, just like there's certain things that you should do. I think as a business owner, regardless of with no attachment to the outcome. It because we'll like for instance, like if you want to get a loan or a line of credit or any of those things, and have no intention of even taking the money, but just figuring out like what would be the things that I would need to show up with so that I don't look like a fool.
Mhm.
And just they're like, oh, we're gonna need this, and you're like, I have no idea what that is. I gotta go find somebody who knows like, you know, what a comparative balance sheet is. And you're like, I don't have to, so all those things. And that way you can start planning for the future to make sure that your books are in order, like that you can just show up and just be like, yo, I brought my packet, because people forget this. When you're going to go get a loan, in most instances, like you're probably going to be doing it with a bank, and you'll be dealing with a person. And that first impression, when you just show up and be like, here's all of my things, sets a significant tone with regard to lending, because that person that you're talking to is going to be, as long as you check the boxes, is going to be the person that signs off on said loan. And if they
Mhm.
get like bad vibes from you, you're not getting the loan. If you show up organized and they're like, oh, all of their financials in order, they had like all sorts of stuff, they were ready, they came in a folder. I asked them for all the information, they gave it to me within 12 hours. Like those are all things that absolutely set the tone if you are trying to get money. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to get the loan, but it definitely gives you a leg up, because they deal with a bunch of garbage requests all
Mhm.
the time,
Yep.
and that shouldn't be overlooked. So I recommend everybody just go through exercise. Again, I think every gym should have a line of credit. I don't think you should use it like an idiot, but I think you should have it available to you in the event that you need it for whatever, right? Like, doesn't matter. It's better to have access to $75,000, $100,000 than not.
Mhm.
And even if you never touch it, who cares? Um, and those are all just, you learn those things as you get more mature in the business world, and you start setting those things up, getting all your bookkeeping in order for a future sale that you might not go through or something like that. All that stuff matters. And those are just things that you should go through those exercises, because what you'll learn in the process will be super valuable to you down the
Yeah.
road. Whether you pursue any of those things, it has you operate in a more professional manner. So,
Mhm. Love
um,
that. Thanks.
yeah, you're very welcome. We aim to please here, Jenny. Um, okay, so tell me about by the way, where is Fort Collins in Colorado? I'm not actually familiar.
We're an hour north of Denver. It's straight
Got
up
it.
I-25.
Is there any other reference point in Colorado other than Denver? Colorado
Not
Springs, maybe.
really. Yeah, kind of. But yeah, when I talk about Colorado Springs, I'm like, that's like 2 hours south of Denver.
It's also where the crappy Air Force Academy lives, which is the third best of all the service academies, right behind Navy and Army. Okay, so tell me a little bit about the affiliate, right? Like how big is your facility? What's it like? How many members do you guys have? All that kind of stuff.
So square footage total is about 2,800, and we have about 2,400 for the workout area. I had
Okay.
to text my husband before this for that. I'm horrible with square footage numbers. I'm like 10? I don't know.
It's 38 paces that way.
Yeah, exactly. It's this many handstand
It's
walks.
it's six barbells.
Yeah, yeah. We have, what was the next question?
Members, like how big is it? All that kind of stuff. Like how many members?
Members, we're about 125 for our members. And Yeah, been open, like I said, almost 4 years, 4 years
4
this
years.
July.
And then coaching staff. I saw that you guys, we were talking about this before, very unique in the fact that you guys got an all female crew there.
Yes. Yeah, it's 4 of us coaches, me, Doreen, my head coach, Paige, who's we're working to get her to a general manager role. She's in charge of our membership specialist. And then Nikki, who she just joined us last year. She joined us through an internship, got her level 1 through that internship. And just recently I gave her an administrative role of like a merchandise specialist. So she helps with apparel and, retail and all of that. So that's been really helpful.
Okay.
And then Drew, my husband, he has a full-time job, and he's on our wall. And I think he's on I don't know if he's not on our website right now. He used to be, but he's on our wall as like the handyman.
Yeah, he wasn't on the
website. We just, redid our website as well through Push Press Grow. So
got it.
Learning some of those.
I was going to ask you that. This is much more well laid out than most. And then I believe that Push Press Grow, you guys have the software, that CRM on the back of it.
Yep.
Yeah. It's called Go High Level. It's actually there's a bunch of different companies that white label that. Push Press is one of them. It's actually really, really good software. It's very robust.
Yeah. We entered into Push Press Grow, and I think it was December, if not maybe beginning of January. And we're still like learning a lot and trying to figure out some of the workflows and automations.
It's a lot. It's
been great though. It's been definitely working.
It's fantastic. The double-edged sword there is it does require, it's a pretty steep learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
Learning curve that most affiliate owners don't have the bandwidth to start learning software. And then what I find is most people only know a fraction of things that it can do, which is good and bad, right? It's available to them, but now you're overpaying for a Ferrari that you think you know how to drive and you don't. But I teach people how to use that all the time because I've been using it for many years at this point. Okay, so what's your goal? What do you want to do with your affiliate? Fast forward 5 years, what does it look like?
Yeah, we actually talked about this me and Drew at our annual meeting. And so, goals.
You guys do like a personal meeting between the two of you?
Yeah, it's good. It's stressful.
Why?
Just like the husband and wife thing. And I'm very sometimes I let my pride get in the way, and
that's interesting.
Very type A.
Role reversal. Okay.
Yeah, I like things a certain way, and it's good for me. He helps balance me out, but it's like, a 4 or 5 hour meeting because we talk about tons of stuff, and
it should be.
Yeah,
it's an important discussion,
and it could be a lot longer. He has to okay, is it this or this, and shorten it out.
Have you guys considered doing that big long one and then doing quarterly reviews on that meeting?
So we meet monthly as well for a financial meeting, and we'll check in on the annual meeting minutes just to make sure that we are staying on top of that stuff. I was the affiliate hot seat you were doing with Simpsonville.
Simpsonville, yep.
You were talking about even just quarterly goals not being monthly. So
monthly is too, for business purposes. It's too tight. It's more for tracking purposes, but very rarely do you plan in months. More often you're going to be planning in quarters. So plan it quarterly, which means we should meet quarterly, because it gives you a longer runway to make the changes, right? It gives me a big enough data set to be like, okay, we were trying something, it either did or didn't work. Why or why not? At which point I can keep doing it, or I can make the changes and now have one more quarter to make the adjustments moving forward.
That makes sense, because oftentimes monthly is going to be more tactical items, whereas quarterly can be strategic, longer term. So
correct.
Yeah.
And that's something you don't learn until you can kind of get out of the weeds a little bit, and you can look around and be like, what do I want to do? Strategically, what are the moves I'm trying to make? I like to describe them these are much more involved plans. Like they're not just like, oh, we're going to do that. That's like, oh shit, that's like that's a lot of moving pieces and things and planning and design and all that kind of stuff. Those are not like monthly changes. Those are like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm going to change this over the next 120 days,
Yeah,
stuff like that. So,
that's a good
okay,
idea. I like it quarterly. So,
cool.
so yes. Anyways, but we talked about our goals. Big goal would be to be able to buy a place. Not sure if we're able to do that or what the realisticness of that is for June 2025 when our lease is up.
2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so. And again, we even wrote down like reaching out to our private investors again to see if they'd be.
There are so many ways. I find this out more and more every day. So there are so many ways to do commercial deals. It's mind blowing. It's not like buying a home, right? There's like a handful of ways to do that. You want to buy commercial real estate? The sky is the limit on the number of ways that you can broker a deal.
Do you have a couple examples?
So you could do owner financing is one that nobody talks about, right? There's things like land leases. There's different lending variations. There are one of the other things to consider is so let's just say you can buy a portion of land, not the whole thing, for instance. So let's just say I'm looking at a lot and I'm looking at the lot, maybe let's call it a satellite view, and there's a huge portion of the lot that's unused. You can go to let's just say it's owned by a company. You can go to you can find out who either the agent for that company is or who the point of contact, be it a CFO for a certain company, and you can just make them a written offer. Be like, hey, I see that you have this piece of property. I also see that you're paying property taxes on this portion of the land that you're not at all using. Would you be interested in selling that portion so that you can save on property taxes and a handful, and you would get a lump of cash on the front end? So you don't have to buy a whole property. You can just buy a section of property that some CFO who might be running a company where the books are tight, who could use, I don't know, call it $250,000, $500,000 in cash by just selling off a portion of their property that you can just buy that land and then build on it, might sell it to you.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the tactics there are a little old school, which is just like find somebody who, and then you can just see if they're even open to the idea of selling. And then again, there's so many ways. Like I want to buy the whole thing. I want to buy part of it. I want to do, a 100-year land lease, like all sorts of crazy stuff. It is the questions I have learned to ask sound much more like, how do I do that?
Mm-hmm.
To people who are much smarter than me. Because what I found out is just like, if you ask enough times, there's somebody in there who like knows some weird way to do what you want to do. Where a lot of people who are not as well versed in said topic will be like, oh, you can't do that. Like, you can't do this. You can't do that. You can't do that. Anytime I start getting some hard no's, I'm like, I bet you there's a way to do that. Like, how do I do that? And the second you get somebody who's just like, well, I don't know, that means there's a way.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't know how it works. So just keep asking questions. Somebody will find you an answer. It's wild.
Yeah, cool. Never thought of those.
I mean, I just learned those from just continue to ask questions. And then here's the other thing that I think everybody should do. Make it known to the people in your circle that is what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Your members.
Mm-hmm.
Make it known. You're like, yo, we're trying to buy a building. All of a sudden, they'll start connecting you with people, all sorts of things that you had no idea. That they were either friends with somebody who owns half the county or something like that, or they're like, oh, my brother-in-law works for the real estate development company that he would connect you, like all sorts of stuff. Let it be known. One of the things that we do way too much as affiliate owners is we sit in our little box and we just suffer quietly by ourselves and we don't talk to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, yo, here's what I'm trying to do. I would appreciate some help here. And it's okay if people don't want to help you, they're not going to help you. But I think it's okay for you to just let it be known, because the people want to help you. Like I'll give you an example. I'm sure that you're members in your affiliate are no different than mine, which is they're amazing people. They have had life-changing experiences inside the walls of your gym, and they have very deep connections with other people that they will have probably for the rest of their lives. Is that a fair assessment?
Mm-hmm.
Right. This is my point. When people are just like, oh, CrossFit gym's the same. I'm like, bullshit. No, they're not. They're not the same. I was at a celebration of life this weekend for a longtime member's husband who passed away unexpectedly. And it was wild. I was in there where there's like hundreds of people that showed up to this, like a few hundred. And there were like half the coaching staff was there. There were multiple timelines of our gym at this thing, meaning like there was like I saw like multiple timelines of the gym of people that we had been in there that were all connected over time.
Mm-hmm.
And a bunch of us went out to dinner afterwards, and come to find out, like, I didn't know this, like a lot of them still had like they're like people that weren't even at the gym anymore, but they're still super tight and connected, right? Because they met at the gym. That's a cool thing. Like, that's not normal everywhere. And all of them, if I was to like ask them, I actually did ask one of them for a favor. I was like, do you know somebody? He's like, I do. He's like, I'll make a connection for you. And I was like, perfect. They will help you.
Mm-hmm.
So ask for help.
Yeah, great point. It's a special community, isn't it?
It's a special community of people who would love to help. They would love nothing more than to help you do whatever it is that you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. And like
they know somebody or will connect you or something.
It's just like in a workout, you know, when the athletes want to see others succeed, do something they didn't think they could do. It's like they also want to see us succeed.
Because they have a personal pride in the gym, and they want to see it successful. They want I was so pissed off when COVID came around. Be like, oh, everybody's going to work out virtually. I'm like, wrong. People want to be associated with a group or something like that. I mean, in good ways and bad ways. Just look at the political landscape. Like, people just like desperately want to cling to an idea. And I'm just like you could use that, but for a positive. Mm-hmm. The political aspect of it is a shit show. But they want to be associated with it. Like, they're proud of it. They'll help.
Cool.
Okay.
So that was one of the goals.
Want to buy a building. That's one of them. What else?
I also wrote down future and sustainability for me and also the team, but I wrote down gym mayor. I listened to one of your podcasts, the one with like the Sick Well Fit business continuum, basically, and I've implemented that. And so working towards wellness as far as the gym mayor role goes.
More lectures like that coming, everybody. We have rounded out that whole lecture series, and I'm like stoked.
Yeah, I loved it. I watched it like so many times. I was like, this is so cool.
Wait till you see the next one.
Yeah.
Anybody that's going to be at I believe it's the DC summit. It's in Glen Burnie technically, but it's April. In April, anybody who's going to be there, you guys will get to see it. You guys will get to be the first ones to put eyes on it. So I'm excited because I think that those concepts are super important. And what's been cool for me is like when people see it and they hear it, they're like, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. And now it's like, cool, let's take that and do something with it.
Yeah.
So, okay. So buy building, gym mayor, anything else?
Yeah, I mean, something that I've thought about as far as, like I mentioned, the coaches as well. Like, so my staff, I mentioned this to you, but before the call, but none of us have other jobs. All of us just work at DeNovo, which is on one hand amazing because there's, the investment and we're all on the same page and able to support with classes. We're not like at our other job, and that's been really, really cool. And as we continue to grow and add more, like we have nutrition coaching and, all these different programs and opportunities for the coaches to make extra income outside of just their administrative hours and their coaching classes. I would love to be able, like, full-time coaches has been a thought of mine. And all of my current team has, I think, probably better insurance through their spouses. So I don't know if like that side of it would make sense and financially, and I haven't looked into it completely, but
it's one of those things where listen, no business wants to pay for that. if they don't have to. Like if they get better coverage, so just great, good for you.
Right.
Long
I
term,
think,
if you can offer it, then great.
yeah, I mean, it's a perk that could be really helpful for some people down the road. So something just in the back of my mind, but more so just continued development and growth for the team.
So, well, something else on the benefits, everybody thinks it's just like this all or nothing, but it's not. There's all sorts of supplemental, like there are supplemental options out there, like Aflac is one where you can buy like supplemental insurances for either they can pay for them at a very reasonable price through you. I believe, depending on their categorization, you might be able to pay for, it doesn't matter. But the point is like there's other things like that available to you and to them that don't involve super expensive premiums and policies. So there's a lot of options in the middle to explore. Not that you have to do them or not. They're there.
Yeah.
So.
And I think we're kind of on our way there. Like we've, done raises for the team. And this year we just started doing like paid holidays for like their admin rate, the 8 hours a day. So there's other ways to get towards that like full time without the actual full time, I guess. But also like I know there's like logistics there and liability as far as making sure that, hours, they're not like working over 40 hours a week and not getting paid.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, that's all just like talk to a lawyer and make sure that you understand it. And then there's definitely some do's and don'ts, but just have somebody give you the guidance on that. And then you, as long as you know the rules, you're good. So what's your biggest struggle? What, like, if we look at that 5-year plan, what's the thing that's holding you up?
Well, and then I guess the last one too is like long-term goal as far as what does the space kind of look like? And I talked about, the potential of like we have a partnership with a physical or a chiropractor in town and a massage therapist. And it's like, that'd be so cool to be able to partner with them. And right, similar to like buying a piece of land. It's like, well, let's rent out part of our space if we have a big space and having like a very health and longevity mindset. We follow Spiel programming and he's very much like longevity and, sustainability for our joints and mobility and all of those things. And our community has really enjoyed it. And we definitely have some people that are competitive, but it's more community based. I know that word is washed down these days, but
here's the deal. Like, no, it's not washed out. It's great. But I feel like there's a weird thing where like everybody thinks that that's not the norm. It's absolutely the norm. It is 99% of gyms are that exact makeup.
Yep.
Right. Because I feel like people almost are ashamed. They're like, well, we're more community based. I'm like, we're all that gym. Every single one of us. Like there are no gym. I was talking about this at the summit in Louisiana recently. Somebody's talking about competitor program. And I said, one of the other people, they're like, hey, can you comment on this? I'm like, I'd be happy to. I said, there are no competitive gyms. It's not a thing. And what I mean by that is there are no gyms that are sustained by having competitors inside of the gym.
Right. The majority of the people are the ones that just come there.
99.99% of them are like me and you, just normal people. Now, there are other businesses that, think of the Invictuses of the world, the ComTrains, where that is a bolt-on, and how that works on the back end, I don't know. But like that gym, that brick and mortar is run by everyday people. It is supported by everyday people. And I just wanted to tell people, like, there are no competitive gyms. There are competitors that go to gyms and they might have a team, but that does not make it a competitive gym. Because at the most, just based on the numbers, it's 4 people. Okay, if you have 2 and you're a CrossFit Mayhem, it's 8. I'm like, but still, it's like such a small percentage of people.
Right.
So
totally true.
There are no competitive gyms. And I want everybody to stop feeling bad about that. They're like, well, we're not that gym. And I'm like, no, you should be proud of it. You should wear that with a badge of honor. I'm like, no, we have a bunch of everyday superheroes at our gym. And I'm totally proud to wear that badge.
Love that. So I guess maybe a better way to say it is like having more of, not even having more, but continuing like the health focus, having nutrition coaching and that being a big part of our gym and being the everyday people that's helping us run the gym, like how can we put more into that? And like we have the Sick Well Fit continuum on the wall, and we do a quarterly survey about where people are, and we put a little like patch where our gym lies on average on the continuum, and
Do you
exposing more
guys,
people to
how
that.
many people do you guys have on nutrition programs? Because I saw on your website you guys do offer nutrition coaching. Like,
Mhm.
do you have a percentage that you guys
Our goal
are
right
shooting for?
now is to average 20 people doing nutrition coaching a quarter.
Okay.
And right now, I think we're at 12. So we're definitely on the lower end. We're going on like a year and a half of having the program, and it was very popular in the beginning. It was new and shiny, and we're at a little bit of a lull. And I'm currently looking into the potential of adding on another nutrition coach, but also like a nutrition manager, because I'm
Got it.
currently trying to run that program right now.
Right.
Doing okay, but someone else
Yeah.
could definitely do it a lot better than me if they had more time to dedicate to it.
Okay. All right. So I think that's great. I think all of us are in the longevity game, or
Mhm.
as defined by CrossFit, the health game. Your work capacity to cross broad time and modal domains throughout your life. So what is your biggest hurdle that you see? Obviously the partnership and all those things, I would tell you that would be solved by solving one of the earlier problems, which is like get a building, and then that's a layup
Mhm.
in order to in order to integrate those things. That's easy once you can do that.
Yeah. I think it's that for sure. Like our current space
Yeah.
is the biggest one that is more obvious. And until then,
So you have just for recap, you have 2,400 square feet, or sorry,
mhm.
2,800, but only 2,400 of it is actual usable floor space. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, and it used to be smaller, and we
Okay.
like tore down a wall and expanded.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I think the other wall that we have now is load bearing, so I don't know that we would be able to take that
Right.
one down.
Is
Anyways,
it retail or is it like a flex space warehouse?
it's flex space. It's a
Okay.
warehouse unit, and then so the workout space is just open shell, and then we took out like two little rooms where we used to have like childcare, and it wasn't necessary. It wasn't supporting the
Right.
business. So we got rid of that. And the other room, which was just like equipment. And then the front area is like a hangout, where the cubbies are and the couch, and our retail space and the front
Right.
desk and things like that, and the
Okay.
bathrooms. And then, I guess the other like hurdle is, with being able to get that space, financials, like, of course, the loans and everything, but getting to a place where we feel even a little bit more comfortable and confident taking that
Mhm.
leap, as well as like the future and sustainability for me and the team, is the balance and the chicken and the egg, so to say, of
Mhm.
growing growing the team, and like I said, hiring, a nutrition manager, and like our ACV and all of that, like, and our profit is not amazing. We're still only a few years in. We're doing, I think, pretty well, all things considered.
Where do
And
you guys sit on the spectrum? Like sick, well, fit, somewhere in between?
we are right around well,
Well. Okay.
yeah.
Great. Okay.
So I think that's the next big thing, is like how do I continue to delegate,
Okay.
give up, so I can be, more on versus in the business, as well as, continuing to give up some of my classes, but also not coach, because I think it's important to be part of that and living in the coach's world somewhat.
Well, yeah, there's a couple of things there, and I would give you one piece of advice, which you could promptly throw in the trash if you want. But the the running theme in CrossFit affiliates at large, with regard to growth and investment, I think is backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I'd be okay saying what I know it's backwards, because most people are looking for more stuff in bigger space, and that's not how you grow. You grow by investing in the people. So whatever you plan out, that you and the team should come first. Because if you and the team come first, it will inevitably result in you needing more space.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody does that backwards. Like, we're gonna get more space and we'll just grow into it. And I'm like, that just makes me cringe so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
'Cause everybody does it backwards, and myself included. And I no longer subscribe to that line of thinking. You have to grow your team, because if you want to do more, you're going to need more capacity, and that means people that are fully dedicated to it, who can earn a living doing that. How many classes a day do you run?
7 for the most part, 6 on Fridays, 3 on.
Did you cut out the late evening class?
Huh?
Did you cut out the late evening class on Fridays?
Yeah, we have 1 evening class.
Yeah.
And then 3 on Saturdays, 2 on Sundays.
Ooh, Sundays. All right. I see you. Okay. So let me see. 5 a.m., 6 a.m. I'm looking at your schedule here. Actually, I'll just pull it up. Look at your schedule. So you got, this is the same Monday through Friday, I'm assuming, or well, for the most part, Monday through Thursday at least.
Yep.
So 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m. How's a 7:30 to 8:30 a.m. class?
It's good.
Is it?
So this month we've had anywhere between, like, the lowest we've had is 7, but we've had 15s, 14s. Yeah.
I find this interesting. You have super heavy mornings. So between 5 a.m. and noon, you have the bulk of your classes and very little in the afternoon. That being said, there's a lot of room for growth here.
Yes.
So I would argue that you could easily put 2 more classes here in the afternoon and get to 9 and avoid needing a new space for quite some time.
And then that's, that question that I'm sure you've heard many people say is like, right, we need the right people for the right classes. Because right now our, like, 5 a.m. is usually the busiest. 5, 6:15, 7:30, 9:15 are busy for the most part, right? Give or take. The 4:15 is often busier than the 5:30.
Okay.
But yeah, it's like, okay, if we add these classes and keep getting more members, but they only want to come to 5 a.m.
Well, there's a I don't want to say it's a misunderstanding. But if, like, people don't know anything about that they've not experienced, right? So there's assumptions about how that works. And I will tell you, having done it numerous times, the plan for filling classes is to grow the overall number of people in the gym, and you let them go wherever they want. You're not going to put people in certain classes. It's not going to happen. But what I do is I grow the classes, and I'm going to there's an interim spot there that people are trying to avoid. I'm like, it's not avoidable. Like, you're just going to have to go through it, which is like the classes are crowded. I'm like, perfect. That is quite literally the goal. Solve it in the interim with programming and moving your space around and all that other kind of stuff. And then the medium term solution is, once that class starts to get really, really packed, then you add one directly adjacent to it, front or back end, or maybe shift the timelines. And then those people will naturally kind of filter into those different classes, and they'll start to spread out a little bit. But you have to pack the classes first. If you cannot just open them in most instances and have people show up to them. There's occasionally you can do that once you have like a large enough number of members. You can just kind of pop one open and people will fall in there. But when you're in this 125 range, pack the classes, create overflow essentially, where people are like, I would prefer another class time. Then open that one up. And let's just say I had 20 people in that class. Okay, so it splits to 10. Okay, 10 and 10. I'd take that all day. And then I grow those to 15 by growing the overall gym. So a little math for everybody, right? So let's just say you would be crushing. You would have insane numbers if you were getting north of 70% attendance every single day or higher, right? On average, I would tell you like 40 to 50% is par for the course.
What's like well fit for that?
Well, if it was less than that, that would be, I would tell you that, like, we'll call it 40 to 50% would be well, and then 50 plus would be fit. And if you're below that, then it's sick. Now, some of that's not exact because there's a sliding scale there based on total number, right? Like when you
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
100 is different than 300, like the math changes.
Right.
So there's a little bit of wiggle room there. But if you were just going off of like just random, this is more so for figuring out how many classes you would need based on people. So how many people can you fit in your space?
Our class cap is 16.
Okay. Is that because you just like 16 or physically you can't fit any more bodies in the facility?
We just changed it to 16 because we got like another cardio machine. So when there's cardio machine days, and we change our programming sometimes too
Right.
to make it work. But it's also like if it's 16, depending on the workout, of course, like it's tight. And
Right.
for some, it's like we can fit 20 people if it's a partner workout or whatever.
Right. So this is where I'm like, you guys aren't even close to being capped out. Because if you do the math on that, 7 classes a day times 16, that's 112 people, right?
Hmm.
That is like 95% of your total member base. So, and that would be if you had one, that would be if you've packed every single one of those classes every single day. So if you're trying to figure out like what is your actual capacity in there, if you wanted to do, okay, look at your classes, how many people could you put in there? And then say, what would 40% of my total membership base, and then look at that number, and most people are not anywhere even close to that number.
Hmm.
It's like you could facilitate way more people than you think, to the tune of double in most instances before you're like, oh, this is a real problem,
Yeah.
right? Because there's multiple solutions involved there, which is like, okay, you add another class, the math changes again, right? So you can just keep bumping that out for a while. And that's what I tell people. I'm like, don't rob Peter to pay Paul, right? Just grow the classes and then have your series of kind of like we'll call like tripwires in place. Like when we get to here, we do this, boom, and it just rolls out. And then when we get to here, we do this, boom, and then it just rolls out. So you can plan ahead for that. Okay, when we get to an average class of 16 for all 7 classes, we're going to add a class. Where we add it? We add it right here. We're going to move the 5, the 4, 15 to 4. We're going to go 4, 5, 6 because you're already running a 6 to 6:30 or 5:30 to 6:30. And then right in that singular change, you changed the math again because you just added 16 more people into your total class plan by doing that. Okay.
Hmm.
So you can start to push that out further and do that because what you want to do is you want to be really cash flow heavy before you decide to make a move. In order to do that, I have to be running on the edges. Essentially, I got to be like really operating at the fringes with regard to capacity and my ability to manage all of it. But that's great. That's where you want to be. So I like to call it, like, you should be trying to break the machine, not trying to not break it. Like you
Hmm.
should take it machine to its full capacity and then fix what breaks when you do it. It's like such a like training, technique and intensity. Like, hey, go
Hmm.
just fast enough that you start to get the little speed wobbles, slow down a little bit, fix it, and then you go a little bit faster. It's the analogies for training just never end.
That's
You just
awesome.
do it in the business. You do it in the business. Like I take it to the fringes, expect something to break because that's how speed and intensity or technique and intensity work together, and then fix it. Okay, what was the breaking point here? Was it our programming? Was it our coaching? Was it a logistical layout? Like, is it administrative? What is it? I don't know. Ask the question and you just go in there and fix it. Um, because if you don't do that, then you're missing the fundamental component for growth, which is like the bodies,
Hmm.
right? I need the revenue and the capital. And if I'm trying to do more with less, that math just doesn't check out with regard to like growth.
Hmm.
So try to break it. Try to grow your classes to the point where like there's like literally overflow, and then you add one more, and then you solve for it again. Because when you're doing that, your overhead hasn't really changed. It's costing me the same to run the facility, but my revenue starts to grow at a significantly faster clip than my expenses.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, and that was, I guess, one of my other questions is, that's something I think about when we are adding more classes. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
well then payroll is going up, and of course it's the balance of
Yeah,
how
but
how.
your payroll, like if you're adding one class on the high
Mhm.
end, call it like if you were paying 25, $30 an hour or higher, even if screw it, $50 an hour times 20, it's not you're not breaking the bank, right? You're talking about like if you're growing to the point where you need to grow, let's just say at 50 times 20, I think it's 50 times how many would you have? Yeah, times 20, it's $1,000, right? If you're growing to the point, what's your you don't have to answer this, but like what's your average membership? You're like you're unlimited.
Price wise,
Yeah,
145.
that's 6 people.
Mm-hmm.
So my point is like if you were growing to the point you did that, you had already surpassed the number of people that would have covered what it's going to cost you at $50 an hour to add 20 classes to the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
$50 an hour, 4 or 5 days a week for 4 weeks, done. And most people aren't even paying $50. So the reality is it's probably cheaper than that. So it's probably not 6 people. It's probably like 3.
Yep.
So look at it like that, which is if I'm growing at that point, the answer is not like the real problem here, which is what we like really harping on people all the time is like, it's actually not a revenue issue. It's a cash flow management issue. Far more often than not, you start having these conversations, people are like trying to solve all these problems and they literally have no idea where their money's going. I'm like, I need you to show, how do you manage your cash flow? I need you to tell me exactly what you spend on everything. And that's one of the things that like it's one of the first things we have people do when they come in. We give them a budget course taught by one of the best budget coaches on planet Earth, who's on our team. And we teach them how to manage their cash flow. Like you should know to the penny where every single one of your dollars is going. You just cannot solve any problems unless you know that first. Because all of a sudden you start to find all sorts of money hiding in different
Mm-hmm.
places. You're like, oh, we have 4 music subscriptions. Maybe we should just do 1, right? Stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
and then you stop getting caught off guard by the surprise expenses that come around every single year. Your insurance and your affiliate fees. Like you should know those are coming. You should manage your cash flow appropriately. So when they hit you with your insurance bill, you're like, yep, here you go. I'm going to pay in full. I'm not going to finance. I'm going to save some money here because I've been saving for it all year. Stuff like that. And you can start to do these experiments beforehand, right? So let's just say you are managing your cash flow and you just do an experiment. What if I was going to be paying somebody on $50 and I was going to add, what would that cost me? Can I fit in an extra $600 to $1,000 in my current budget or not? And you just start putting it off to the side and you pay an imaginary employee. You do that for 3 months. You're like, yeah, we can afford it. The budget didn't break. And now I have 3 months of this person's pay stacked into the bank already. I could pay them 3 months in full. And they haven't even started yet. I don't even know who it would be.
Mm-hmm.
So it starts to get into the nuance here, which is like you start to find that the problems people think they're dealing with are not actually the problems. There's like in movement, we call it root cause. So like, for instance, like somebody has a forward inclination of the chest and you're like, chest up. And I'm like, it's not their chest. I'm like, should probably widen up their squat stance. They're like, all of a sudden they're upright. And it's like, what's the root cause here? What is the root cause? Cash flow management is the root cause. Floor layout is the root cause. They need more classes on the schedule. Is the root cause there's no roles in place? Like, what is the actual root of this problem? And go there, because we spend most of our time just dealing with the pain. Again, just like training, like my elbow hurts and I'm like, you can't put your hands over your head. It's not shocking to me that your elbows hurt, right? Like, so things like that. It's like, what is actually causing this problem? And then go fix that. Jay and I were having a conversation the other day. He's like, people just avoid doing the hard work. They just prefer to be busy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah, the hard work is painful to deal with sometimes. Emotionally.
Yes.
So that's what we usually try to help people with. I'm like, you need to fix this. If you actually spend some time fixing this, that will actually solve your problems.
That's great.
You put on here retention too. Talk to me about that.
So retention, let's see. We just, this last month. So like in January, we added 8 members. In February, we added 3. It's been great.
That net, or that was just how many you gained?
Net.
Okay, it's great.
Yep. And it's like, so in 2022, we started off with 114 and grew and then lost and, but then finished at 114. And most of our most of the people that are leaving, it's like moving or, things that can't really blame ourselves too much. And of course, we do have people that, like, one person who left fairly recently has been with us like very on and off and bopped around to other gyms and was a cherry picker for programming. And they were like, I struggled with the programming. And it's one of those where it's like, okay, well, majority rules kind of thing. Like, most of our members are enjoying the programming. We're not going to change this for one person. So we definitely have, things
So
that
actually, this is a good teaching point for everybody.
Sure.
So in that scenario, could you have scratched the itch for that person? We could just make up a hypothetical person here, but like, let's just say they wanted to see more of abs. I don't know. I'm just making this up. This is something where I think we're all a little too rigid. I'm like, could we have scratched that itch to some degree without throwing the baby out with the bathwater and kept that person? I'm not saying you should have.
Right.
It's just a thought experiment. Could I have satisfied them or not? I don't know. But I ask myself that question a lot more. And I'm like, could we have just solved that? Or we would just hell bent on having a pissing contest over programming with this person when I was it would have been much easier to just be like, okay, throw abs in twice a week, everybody. Like, just put that in the plan for programming moving forward. How hard was that? And they're like, not super hard. I'm like, exactly. Like, just try to make them happy.
And this particular case, it's just like, I want the long workouts all the time. And
well, I would contend that if you could give them some, they would have been happy. They would have stuck around. Like, and people love that shit. Like, they like little. This is for you. Feel free to take it. I know you guys do Spieler stuff, and I have no dog in the fight for programming. I think any programming is just fine as long as you are a good enough coach to facilitate it and you can make the appropriate changes. The end. You put longer workouts on the front end of the week, take this to Vegas and bet on it. Attendance for the rest of the week will track in line with that.
Yeah,
it will be higher. It will be higher. I promise you. So it's like, okay, give him a longer workout. It doesn't have to be all the time. Just once, twice a month, 3 times if you're feeling froggy, because he wants it at a higher frequency. Everybody else does want it, maybe just not at the frequency that this person wants it. So we're actually overlooking something that everybody wants because we got distracted by this person who's all the way on the end of the spectrum who wants it all the time. And I was like, you actually can serve both in that scenario, and it's worth trying. So anyway, I cut you off.
That's okay. No, and I appreciate that. And I've heard you mention that, I think, on another podcast, where it's like, we can do a better job, we coaches, gym owners in general, of like, not just being like, okay, but hey, like, what can we do to help fix this problem? Or maybe we can fix this issue, or whatever it might be. And I know we definitely can do a better job of that.
We are all too egotistical about programming, all of us.
And programming aside, in general, like, and even I think Spiel said this on one of our like YouTube or Facebook Zoom things, where it was just like, if someone's wanting to cancel because they have an injury, it's like, hey, like, we can work with you. These are some options that we have, and letting them know that there are options. So yes, to the programming situation. And I totally agree. It's like, well, this is CrossFit and the methodology and all these things. And that's one of the great pieces of not being like a franchise, right?
Well, it's also, I was like, well, this is CrossFit. I'm like, do you understand how wide the left and right lateral limits for CrossFit are? Like 5K, that technically falls in the bucket. It was the most frequently programmed for workout for something like to the tune of 10 years.
Yep.
Right. So I'm like, maybe all of us got a little too hung up on the couplets and triplets and heavy barbell and are not technically maybe doing CrossFit anymore. Right. And I think we all just need a reminder on that. Be like, there is something to be said. If you run a brick and mortar, give the people what they want. So, okay. So you got 8 and then you said 9 in February.
January, net 8, and 3 in February.
So you're plus 11 for the year thus far. How's March looking?
So far, let's see. Let me pull that up. And then, of course, we have people like pause for.
How
Like we
long
just
do you do hold? How long do you allow a hold for? What's the maximum length?
we don't have that. What did you do?
Meaning like it can just be indefinite.
Well, yes, and we like that's like another thing with Grow that we kind of like we didn't necessarily have a pause form before, and
Okay.
now we do. And it's not like people are like crazy taking advantage of it, but we just don't have a rule on that, I suppose.
Oh, I would just start by making a rule, any rule, even a bad one would be better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I am increasingly moving to shorter and shorter. Very like most people do 1, 2, and 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why this didn't stick out to me sooner in my affiliate ownership. I'm like, where are you going for 3 months? Like you could
Right.
like what is happening? Um, and I'm sure somebody's thinking about like, well, I've got one client. I'm like, that's not how you make rules. You don't make rules because you got one client that is going to leave for 3 months because they can just abide by your rules. But I typically recommend, we've actually started to change our recommendations for most people, but like 4, 5, and 6 weeks, and that would be on the high end. And we have gyms that do no holds.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not a thing.
Okay. Anyways, report right now shows 125,
Okay.
which is
That checks
equal.
out. That's up 11 from last year. We said you ended at 114.
Yep. So yeah,
Okay.
that's where we currently are, and we have a few people. I met with one gal today, and then I'm meeting with another girl tonight whose husband is also coming, and they're doing like a free week. That's for
Right.
experienced local CrossFitters who are looking for new gyms. So chances are looking good for those ones. So hoping that we can get at least 3 more
Okay.
for March.
So that would put you at plus. Have you had any? Well, what would that net you for March? Because right now we're a net 11 for the year, not including March.
Mm-hmm. And right now, so the pulled report for right now is also 125. So if we got 3 from where we are now, that would be plus 3.
Okay, so you'd be at 1. Okay, so you'd be plus 14 for the year.
Mm-hmm.
Which I mean is you obviously want to see more than that, right? But it does get you to the goal as long as you can hold that. The issue becomes the retention piece.
Well, we have two pending cancels. One
Okay.
for a kid who's like not coming as much and doing more sports, and then another who for a girl that's moving.
Right.
So that would be, I guess, plus 1.
So you're still net gain.
Right.
So
I mean, the
on
goal,
net,
right, is plus 3,
so
which would be great. But
right. Well, you're currently on that trajectory, meaning if I looked at the quarter, you would have beaten plus 3. Plus 3 would have been 9 finishing March. You're going to finish plus 12.
yeah.
You're actually 1 month ahead on that trajectory, and then I would continue to be pushing that forward. Right. I
Mm-hmm.
want to hit net 5 the next month, and now I'm 2 months out in front on that trajectory. So I want to be perfectly clear with everybody. Is like I'm not just looking for 3. I want 15.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm plus. I think we're plus like 18 for January, February. I'm not trying to do just 3. 3 is just it gets you there. It's
Mm-hmm.
just manageable for most people because most people are trying to solve the same problems you're solving, which is the team, the systems, the classes, all that stuff. And it's like if you start plussing up too fast, you can no longer fulfill, which is going to create way worse problems than slow growth.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you do not have the ability to fulfill, the retention starts to plummet. At which point I have way bigger problems. And this is best hour in the crew. This is a sword we will die on. The 60 minutes of your class is quite literally 50% of the business. Everybody wants to harp on the business, and I'm like, if your service and product is not the best it could possibly be, you have a ticking time bomb on your hand. The end. You must address that. And you must continue to address it. The coaching needs to be better. Everybody should be shooting for level 4. You should be able to manage classes of 15 to 25 with a rock star coach. And that should be the gold standard for every gym, CrossFit gym across the globe. Because at that point, you have a very, very high quality service. At which point, that is my first buffer for retention, because people are there, they're getting results, and they are loving it. Okay? That's when people stay. And people forget about that. They start focusing on the business, and I've seen it time and time again. The product takes a nosedive. And they're like, oh, I can't keep people. I'm like, the thing that you sell is not that good. At which point, that is an unsolvable problem. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I think, like, as you start to look at that, as you start to move, remember to refocus in on the coaches as you start to replace yourself. Like, make them, like, if you're level 4, like that, if that, and you pass that, that should be the standard that every coach in your gym is now held to. I don't care how long they've been there. Level 1, level 2, level 3, who cares? The standard is now level 4. And if you're not moving towards that, eventually there will not be a seat for you on this bus. If you cannot replace that level of coaching, so let's project this into the future. Jenny gets her level 4. Let's all assume that you are really good at coaching. And then you step off the floor without replacing that level of coaching, you have a serious problem on your hands. Your clients are not just going to be okay with that, and they shouldn't. And I think that's what everybody forgets. They're like, oh, I'm just going to move into this other seat. It's good enough. And I'm like, and herein lies the problem.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, oh, it doesn't matter if it's good, or like, whatever. It's not going to have any impact on your business. I'm like, bullshit. We just took a survey of all the people that we work with. And I'm like, tell me about what has changed in the business since you have refocused on better coaching. And the feedback is like bonkers. They're like, retention is up, sales are up, referrals are up. And I'm like, right.
Mm-hmm.
It's like food at a restaurant. The food's shitty. Nobody's coming.
Yep.
So I think that stuff gets overlooked, and that's the first thing they should get shored up, because it's usually what all the box owners are the best at. Most of them usually suck at business, and they're pretty good at coaching. I'm like, cool. Make sure that coaching doesn't fall off as you go to focus on the business. Is the first thing that should get shored up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thankfully, yeah. I mean, there's continually work to be done there for sure. And I feel pretty good with that. That's actually something that we get a lot of really positive feedback on, is like our coaching and actually coaching.
Right.
Right. So yeah, not to say like, we're fine, I don't have to worry about that. That's a really good reminder to have. And I'm a fine coach, and like, I feel very confident in the whole coaching team, and that's good. Like the replacing.
Double down on that. You're
Yeah.
good, like double down on it, and then double down on it again. Like, that's the fastest way. This is what everybody misinterpreted for Coach Glassman. He's like, he's not saying that you shouldn't do marketing. He's just, what he was actually saying, or at least I think he was saying, was that your product should be so good that people market for you.
Right. Yep.
They get results and they love being there.
The walking billboards.
Right. So, okay. What other questions? Shoot. Anything you want to ask me? Fire. I've got a couple questions here we'll answer, but I want to know what questions you want to ask me specifically.
Well, I mentioned like similar but not consistency. Just there are days where sometimes it feels, and it's great to have people paying, their memberships, but I also like, I've thought about like, I just want to cancel people's memberships if they're only coming once or twice a month. And that's probably not a very smart move, but consistency is one of our values.
In attendance.
Yes. Like showing up, and, and I get that summer months in Colorado, and there's a lot of people that want to be outside and do training and all these things. And we work hard. We can work harder on education as far as why CrossFit can help with. And I've told people like, I didn't train for a half marathon. I went on 3 runs and all I did was CrossFit, and I did better than when I wasn't doing CrossFit. Like I'll try to educate on the why and the health. And, we reach out to our members either by text or phone call every month. We have a checklist. So we try to make sure we're having contact points. And of course, with Push Press Grow, we have now like the CRM that's supporting with that. So it's less manual. But yeah, I guess
be careful with that, because that's still not going to solve the problem.
Totally.
So we could do a whole podcast on this, and we probably will. So why do people come into the gym? What are they there for? Just rattle off anything.
To de-stress, to see their friends, to get a good workout, to get away from their family, to have the best hour of their day.
More tangible, right? The first one, de-stress. That's a tangible one. We could quantify that, right? What else?
To feel better.
Okay, so let's just say less pain, right? Or more functionality.
Are you saying big picture, not just like in the moment?
Yeah. Like when they show up for a consult, they're like, "Hey, I want to
look good, to lose weight."
Okay, there you go. Right? Yes. Yeah, we always skip over that one because the community is so amazing. I'm like, they want results.
Right.
They want you to provide the value. They want me to provide the value that I told them I was going to provide. So here's the deal: when people don't get that value, whatever it might be, meaning they wanted accountability, they wanted to be a part of a group, they wanted to get stronger, they wanted to lose weight, they wanted to play with their grandkids, like insert any of those things that they told us they wanted to do or get when they came in. If they do not get that value out of it, they will leave. We have to provide on that value, right? So when people are like, I want to do other things, they're like, it was either a placeholder for them, or they no longer find it valuable because they're not getting the thing that they came in for. So if I'm not getting people stronger, if they're not losing the weight they wanted to lose, if I'm not keeping them accountable, if I'm not showing them the progress, these are all things that are tangible value that I could literally show somebody. Look what you are doing. Then eventually it will become lackluster to them. They will become indifferent to it, and they will leave. Now, you can't save them all, but if just knowing that, I can deliver on those things. Right? So thinking about accountability, give me one or two ways that you could show somebody accountability. What would be the result of accountability?
If I was helping them be accountable?
Yeah, like what could I show them that I have held them accountable, that they had done? Not that I had done, that they had done, but I kept them accountable.
I mean, like there's one member who came today, and as he was leaving, because I texted him in the beginning of the month, and I was like, hey, you made it 8 times last month. Like, can you get 10
right
this
there?
month?
Perfect. And that is like, literally it.
Yeah. Today he's like, I'm on track for 10.
Perfect. That is quite literally what I was hoping you were going to say. That was like I planted you there. That accountability, which is the metric for that is attendance, right, is how I show them the result that they asked for. Because what do you and I both know?
If they're not being if they're not being consistent and not showing up, they're not going to get the results.
Correct. So that's what I have to think about. What are all the things that I could be having connection points with them on that would be relevant and relative to them? So obviously attendance is one. If you guys don't do committed club, I recommend that you do it. And there's two. You can do multiple check-in points. You can do a halfway check-in point like you just did. And then you can do the final check-in, which is like you do a raffle, right? Lifetime attendance, PRs, okay, birthdays, anniversaries, all sorts of things that are unique to them, not arbitrary timetables. Those are the things that we have to figure out how to systemize and contact them on. This is why people don't reach out to people when haven't been in the gym forever. I'm like, because you're reaching out to them about nothing. That's not actually the problem. The problem is that we didn't reach out to them about something important way before this. That's the actual problem.
Right.
Going back to root cause, what we were talking about before. The root cause is I'm not keeping track of the things that this person would find valuable. Insert result of whatever thing that they like. And there's a ton of things, like call them perceived value builders. They either like training, they like the social aspect of it, or they like things. Track those things. If they like the social aspect of it, make sure that they know when the social events are that are coming up. If they like training, make sure that they show up to the training events, or make sure that their attendance is good, or make sure that they get nutrition coaching that they want. Done. So
Mm-hmm.
those are the things that we have to think about, and we need to think about having more personal interactions with people on. But what would those be? They'll be all the things that they want that we're already tracking in all these systems anyway. Just
Mm-hmm.
extract the information so I can have a personal conversation. Because it's much different if I'm like, hey, Jenny, haven't seen you in a week. You're going to get in here tomorrow. See you then. Versus like, Jenny, you're at 8 right now. Make sure you get those last like 6 in by the end of the month. By the way, great job on that PR for your push press last week. That's amazing. And Coach Jake said that you are like the life of the party in the classes. So we really, really appreciate it. Like those are two totally different interactions.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is just like, I would like more of your money. The other
Mm-hmm.
one is just like, I appreciate you as a person and the work that you're putting in. Like, I see you. Those are the things that we need to double down on.
Mm-hmm.
The rub becomes like, how do I start to capture that information so that I can communicate with those people? Gary Vee calls it, how do you scale the unscalable? How do I scale those one-on-one interactions? Well, it requires some systems, some communication, a little bit of crowdsourcing of, that from the coaching staff, but it's doable.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dunbar's number is 150. Like you can manage 125 relationships. Like I'm not suggesting that you manage all of them yourself, but like you have 3 coaches, you're talking about 450 people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't know any gym that's like, I do not want 450 people, and that sounds terrible. I'm like, you absolutely want 450 people because you're crushing if you're doing that. You have full-time coaches, you have a staff, you have a team, you have a culture. Life is good if you're doing that. But we have to figure that. We have to want people to want to be inside the culture.
Mm-hmm. And it needs to serve them and be specific to what they want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want to give too much away, but you have to understand who the stakeholders are in this whole thing. And if anybody is underserved, you, the members, it starts to fall apart. I have to keep attentive to all parties. Otherwise, it's again ticking time bomb.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard, right? You got to have systems. You got to have organization. You guys got to have your quarterly meetings. You got to have your monthly meetings with the staff. You got to do the class evals. You got to make sure the members get the touch points that they need. It's hard work.
Yep.
However, if you step up to the table, like we already know how to do because we do CrossFit, you're just like, cool, I'm going to learn how to do this. It's going to be a little bit hard. First few reps aren't going to go so well. Fine, deal with it. But like keep chipping away. Be like, oh, that didn't work, or this is broken. I'm like, refine it again. That didn't work. Oh, that was better. Cool. Let's do that again. Double down on that. Be like, okay, when we reached out or this report was broken or whatever, tweak it. Continue to refine it over time.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no end to it. And if you do that, then retention becomes significantly easier because it's baked into the cake.
Right.
Most people look at retention as like it's a last ditch effort to save somebody. And I'm like, no, retention started the second they contacted you and it never stopped.
Mm-hmm.
So when they feel unseen is when they're going to leave. That's literally why they're there.
Yep. That's awesome. Thank you.
What else?
Do you have either numbers, general numbers, or sick well fit numbers for like payroll as a percentage of like revenue or income or anything like that?
It kind of depends, but like typically somewhere in I believe what you would probably most often go off of would be rent would be no more than 25%, and then payroll could be upwards of 30 to 40%, depending on what you're doing. So if you think about just profit first, so if I think about rent is 25%, and I use payroll for 40%, and I say, okay, well, cool, that's 65%. That means I have 35% left over for everything else. Take off 10% for tax, I'm left over for 25%. That's essentially owner pay, right? Nice living. Obviously it depends on what the number is, right? 25% of 10 is different than 25% of 100. So that's like rough, but again, there's a sliding scale and it becomes a little bit more specific outside of like those general parameters, because
Mhm.
now I need 25, a percentage of what, essentially. So for most people, when they first start, the biggest check they cut is rent. Once you move past that, then payroll becomes, for a lot of us, like mine's double my rent. My payroll's double my rent.
Mhm.
And that's not including me. So mine's probably closer to 50 if you add mine in there, like owner pay.
Yeah, I
But
guess
40
what I was going to say is
40% is
that
40%
40%.
is a safe bet. Yeah,
Okay,
40% is safe.
without owner pay.
Yes. Yeah, because technically you're not really included in overhead, you're included in the profit.
So closer to 50%-ish with owner pay.
Maybe it
Yeah.
could be much higher depending on what your take is on what depends on what the profit margin is, right?
Yeah.
Because we left out the rest of, right. So we only listed like two expenses. We listed rent and
Mhm.
then payroll. I'm like, there's a lot left over after
That's
that.
it.
Right.
That'd be
Oh,
nice.
that's it. Yeah, it'd be great. Right.
Uh,
So then, if you factor in like another 7 to 10% for other expenses, merchant fees, your utilities, like all of that stuff starts to add up really quickly, then it's probably closer to, you know, your total overhead is probably north of 65 to 70% with a 30%. You'd be crushing at 30% profit margin.
ugh, merchant fees. Dumb.
Those are solvable problems. Either pass it on, or just raise your prices. You
Mhm.
know, you spend so much time trying to avoid that instead of just stop pretending like it's not a thing. Is what I tell everybody. Like,
Yeah.
it's a thing.
Yep.
Just pretend that the world exists with merchant fees, because it in fact it does,
Mhm.
and charge accordingly.
Yep.
So there's a ton of ways you can do that. You can raise your prices, you can pass that on, you can charge a percentage for anybody that uses credit cards and stuff like that. There's many solutions. But I really try to get up the people off of the bandwagon of complaining about merchant fees. It's
Mhm.
a thing. It's a thing that you have to
Yep.
negotiate for. So
Gonna be there.
what else?
Um, think I think that's it for my questions. Let's see. Nope, I think that's it for me.
Cool.
Ask a ton more.
What's that?
I'm sure I could ask a ton more, but that's it.
Well,
Good for now.
it's your show. I'm just here. Let's just see. I will put this question up here. Do you recommend multiple membership types versus unlimited option? It depends. Depends on what the gym's got going on. Depends on where they're at, and sometimes there's a transition between the two, where we might wean them off of limited membership, and then there's scenarios where we would absolutely reintroduce a limited membership there. AV. So. That's always a more contextual answer depending on what the gym has. So I don't really blanket recommend one. More often than not, we will probably default to one membership for a whole host of reasons, because the limited memberships are creating a problem, and the owner typically has like a mental break with regard to what memberships they offer and what people will and won't pay for. So first thing is we have to kind of like recalibrate that, and then we can potentially introduce them back at a later date, or introduce them like for some time. Um, Again, lot of scenarios there, and there's no one size fits all. It's a more contextual answer. So I hope that helps, AB. Cool. Anything else, Jenny?
Did you have any questions for me?
What else can I do for you? Is the only question I have. Your website looks great. That's the only feedback I can give you. It looks really well. It looks really good.
Thanks.
But yeah, I think for you, I think it's continue to focus on the team,
Mm-hmm.
and then really start to figure out, be like, what would be the low hanging fruit with regard to retention. And when we say retention, like making sure people get what they want. How could I double down on that and improve that first? And the reason I typically go there first is it's an easier problem to fix than more leads.
Yep.
And you want to fix that first anyway,
Totally.
so that when I do have more leads, then I can keep them. So I usually tell people to start there. Two things that you can work on right now that would have significant impact is like start focusing on like the retention and the member engagement, and double down on making sure that your classes are as good as they could possibly be. Eval your coaches, eval your coaches, eval your coaches, eval your coaches, and then eval them some more. I promise you that is one of the best uses of your time as an affiliate owner that you could possibly like ever allocate time to. Like that is never, ever, ever a bad idea. I would do 10 times more of them if I had the bandwidth.
How often do you do it right now?
We're on like a little bit of a lull, but we're getting ready to jump back in there hard. Like everybody will get at least one per month.
Mm-hmm. That's what we do right now. And I would like to do more as well.
We're switching the process for how we do it. So it's just like, it's fine. You know, I'm confident that we could not do them for a month or two and it would be fine. You know, all of our coaches are level 2, have been for a long time. You know, 3 of us work on seminar staff. We have a couple people who will probably get their level 3 before the end of the year. So very seasoned coaching staff. So doesn't mean it can't be tightened. That's not what I'm saying. It's just like we've put enough time and energy there that we can not touch it for a little bit and it would be okay as we kind of like revamp how we're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because candidly, I'm going towards the same mark that I mentioned to you earlier. Like I want all of my coaches at level 4. And if you're not pursuing that, again, probably not a long-term place for you here.
Mm-hmm.
Because it can be done, you know? So, cool. Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Cool. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
If you guys have not liked or subscribed to the YouTube channel, we're no longer friends. I'm not going to be friends with you anymore. I'm not going to answer your DMs. No, I'm just kidding. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on your notifications, follow us on Instagram. You guys can not follow Jason Ackerman anymore. No, I'm just kidding. You guys can follow him. But if you guys want to be on the affiliate hot seat, the link is in the comments. You can fill that out. Cody will chat with you, and then he will make sure you're taken care of. You can email him, cody@bestsellerday.com, and we will get you guys taken care of. But if you guys want to be on the hot seat, if you find this valuable, let us know. And outside of that, if you guys are in Fort Collins, Colorado, go see DeNovo CrossFit and hang out at their gym. Jenny hopefully is soon to be level 4.
Fingers crossed.
See you guys next time.